In his landmark book, The Strange Career of Jim Crow, the historian C. Vann Woodward wrote, "Segregation in complete and fully developed form did grow up contemporaneously with slavery, but not in its midst. One of the strangest things about the career of Jim Crow was that the system was born in the North and reached an advanced age before moving south in force. Without forgetting evils peculiar to the South, one might consider northern conditions with profit." To that end, I'd like to share a first-hand account of northern Jim Crow by a remarkable man, William Wells Brown, in his 1855 travelogue, The American Fugitive in Europe, Sketches of Places and People Abroad. Brown was born enslaved in Lexington, Kentucky, and was sold several times and separated from his family before escaping to Ohio at age 20. He became active in the anti-slavery movement, helping dozens of Black Americans escape to Canada and founding a Black Temperance Society before publishing a memoir in 1847 and embarking for Europe in 1849 as a delegate to the Paris Peace Conference, then living in Britain for several years. There he wrote a number of travel accounts and plays, as well as the novel Clotel, or The President's Daughter, a narrative of slave life in the United States, which is believed to be the first novel written by an African American. After a British family purchased his freedom in 1854, Brown returned to the United States to rejoin the anti-slavery lecture circuit. This passage is from the end of his book, The American Fugitive in Europe, and reveals the culture shock that awaited him. In no city in the Free States does the anti-slavery movement have more bitter opponents than in Philadelphia. Close to two of our southern states, and connected as it is in a commercial point of view, it could scarcely be otherwise. Colorphobia is more rampant there than in the pro-slavery, Negro-baiting city of New York. I was not destined to escape this unnatural and anti-Christian prejudice. While walking through Chestnut Street, in company with two of my fellow passengers, we hailed an omnibus going in the direction which we wished to go. It immediately stopped, and the white men were furnished with seats, but I was told that we don't allow to ride in here. It so happened that these two persons had rode in the same car with me from London to Liverpool. We had put up at the same hotel at the latter place and had crossed the Atlantic in the same steamer. But as soon as we touch the soil of America, we can no longer ride in the same conveyance, no longer eat at the same table, or be regarded with equal justice by our thin-skinned democracy. During 5 years' residence in monarchical Europe, I had enjoyed the rights allowed to all foreigners in the countries through which I had passed. But on returning to my native land, the influence of slavery meets me the first day that I'm in the country. Had I been an escaped felon, no one would have questioned my right to a seat in a Philadelphia omnibus. Neither of the foreigners who were allowed to ride in this carriage had ever visited our country before. The Constitution of these United States was as a blank to them. The Declaration of Independence, in all probability, they had never seen, much less read. But what mattered it? They were white, and that was enough. The fact of my being an American by birth could not be denied. That I had read and understood the Constitution and laws, the most pro-slavery, Negro-hating professor of Christianity would admit. But I was colored, and that was enough. I had partaken of the hospitality of noblemen in England, had sat at the table of the French Minister of Foreign Affairs. I had looked from the strangers' gallery down upon the great legislators of England as they sat in the House of Commons. I had stood in the House of Lords when Her Britannic Majesty prorogued her Parliament. I had eaten at the same table with Sir Edward Bulwer Lytton, Charles Dickens, Eliza Cook, Alfred Tennyson, and the son-in-law of Sir Walter Scott. The omnibuses of Paris, Edinburgh, Glasgow, and Liverpool had stopped to take me up. I had often entered the Caledonia, Bayswater, Hammersmith, Chelsea, Bluebell, and other omnibuses that rattle over the pavements of Regent Street, Cheapside, and the West End of London. But what mattered that? My face was not white. My hair was not straight. And therefore, I must be excluded from a seat in a third-rate American omnibus. Slavery demanded that it should be so. I charge this prejudice to the pro-slavery pulpits of our land, which first set the example of proscription by erecting in their churches the Negro pew. I charge it to that hypocritical profession of democracy which will welcome fugitives from other countries and drive its own into exile. I charge it to the recreant sons of the men who carried on the American Revolutionary War and who come together every 4th of July to boast of what their fathers did, while they, their sons, have become associated with bloodhounds to be put at any moment on the track of the fugitive slave. But I had returned to the country for the express purpose of joining in the glorious battle against slavery, of which this Negrophobia is legitimate offspring. And why not meet it in its stronghold? I might have remained in a country where my manhood was never denied. I might have remained in ease in other climes. But what was ease and comfort abroad while more than 3 millions of my countrymen were groaning in the prison house of slavery in the southern states? Yes, I came back to the land of my nativity, not to be a spectator but a soldier in this moral warfare against the most cruel system of oppression that ever blackened the character or hardened the hearts of man. And the smiles of my old associates and the approval of my course while abroad by my colored fellow citizens has amply compensated me for the 20 rough days' passage on my return. Historian C. Van Woodward wrote, "By the eve of the Civil War, the North had sharply defined its position on white supremacy, Negro subordination, and racial segregation. The political party that took control of the federal government at that time was in accord with this position, and Abraham Lincoln, as its foremost spokesman, was on record with repeated endorsements. He knew the feelings of the great mass of white people on Negroes. A universal feeling, whether well or ill-founded, cannot safely be disregarded. We cannot then make them equals." It is clear that when its victory was complete and the time came, the North was not in the best possible position to instruct the South, either by precedent and example or by force of conviction, on the implementation of what eventually became one of the professed war aims of the Union cause, racial equality. Brown's experience certainly seems to bear out that observation. Let me know in the comments what you think. And as with all my videos, I've got more of the story at antebellumetc.com. Click the link in the description below. And I hope you'll help this channel go viral, or at least catch a case of the sniffles, by subscribing, smashing that like button, and sharing the video with anyone who might be interested. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.